Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Dion and sorry I was missing for a week. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's funny, I initially was going to film this video in Miami when I was home for Thanksgiving, but I forgot all my camera equipment, which is why I was like, I guess I'm taking the week off. I wanted to do this as the Thanksgiving special because instead of celebrating what the colonizers did, I wanted to celebrate an indigenous model named Quannah ChasingHorse. She has been a rising model of the past few years, becoming more and more popular, and especially making splashes at various Met Galas. So I wanted to celebrate her in today's video. So if you like fashion and style analysis and celebrity style, then definitely make sure to subscribe to my channel because I do post videos every Thursday. I know I've been slacking the past month or so. Things have been crazy at work, but I definitely am trying to get back on my routine. And with that, let us get into it. Quannah ChasingHorse was born in Navajo Nation in Tuba City, Arizona. ChasingHorse is Han Quichin of Eagle Village, Alaska on her mother's side, and her biological father is Nathan ChasingHorse of the Sikangu Oglala Lakota tribe from South Dakota. ChasingHorse spent her early childhood in Arizona, Mongolia, and New Mexico before returning to her maternal homelands in Alaska at the age of 6. During her time in Mongolia, when her and her mother Jody would take supply trips to a nearby town, Jody would often find Quannah in front of their hotel's small television, transfixed, watching a channel that only showed nothing but high fashion runway shows. Quote, "My memories start in Mongolia. There's a picture of me sitting with my legs crisscrossed, just staring at the TV in awe. Ever since then, my dream was to be a model." In an interview with Caroline, Alaska, Quannah ChasingHorse said, quote, "We live in Kenny Lake, Alaska, where my mom raised my brothers and I, living our ways of life. She taught us how to hunt, fish, chop wood, and took us berry picking and had our very own snare line and trap line. We even had a dog team, and when it would get too cold to where the vehicle wouldn't start, my mom would drop us off by dog team. My mom got a promotion in Fairbanks, Alaska when I was 12, and we have been here ever since. We visit our village and still practice our ways of life, even though we live in the city." One thing about Quannah ChasingHorse is that she's not willing to hide or compromise her indigenous heritage in order to make it into the modeling industry. In an interview with Vogue, she said, quote, "When I was 14 years old, I received my first facial tattoo, a traditional hand-poke tattoo called yijittu, in a ceremony that was practiced to signify coming of age. It was truly a special moment. I could have done it sooner, but waited until I could better articulate its meaning and sacredness, why it's so important for us to reclaim this tradition after it, like so many other cultural practices, has nearly been erased. The other tattoos have each been a rite of passage. Not every indigenous person's tattoos are the same. They tell our personal histories. But my rule is, if you want to work with me, you have to work with all of me. I won't cut or change the color of my hair. I won't cover up my facial tattoos because they are part of my identity as an indigenous person. As indigenous people, we don't consider ourselves separate from or more important than nature. When you grow up with a connection to the land, it's natural that you want to defend it because it's a part of you. I choose to walk the path I do because of those teachings. And today, I continue to try my best and do my part, spreading awareness to many issues within Native country, including climate justice, protecting sacred lands and waters, indigenous sovereignty, and the movement MMIWG2S, which stands for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two-Spirit People, and was formed to stop the violence against Native women. And part of being proudly indigenous is having that connection to the land and is using her voice as a model to be an activist. ChasingHorse is 4th generation land protector for the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge as a part of the Alaska Wilderness League. She said she does not want future generations to have to keep fighting. At age 17, she sat on the International Gwich'in Youth Council, traveling to Washington, D.C., New York, and Colorado. She lobbied against oil leasing that would damage the refuge and supported H.R. 1146, a bill that would permanently protect the land. Quote, "In my life, I have seen these changes. I have experienced these changes. I have witnessed these changes. For Indigenous activists, climate is more than personal. It's existential. Our way of life is at risk. Our culture, all those things that make us who we are, that make our identity. My mom and my aunties have traveled with me to several rallies and protests where I have been given space to speak on some of these issues. They've come with me to Washington, D.C., where I lobbied on behalf of my people to restore the sacred lands through H.R. 1146 bill, which was passed on the floor of the House of Representatives last year, but sadly did not go any further.
Defend the sacred! Defend the sacred! Protect the Arctic! Protect the Arctic!
Me and On Edge came here to fight not only for climate protection, but also fighting for our Arctic refuge, our animals, murdered and missing Indigenous women.
In March of 2023, Chasing Horse was named one of USA Today's Women of the Year honorees for her advocacy of issues of environmentalism, sustainability, women's rights, and Native American rights. So now I want to talk about how she got into modeling. Quannah ChasingHorse was interested in modeling and fashion from a young age, but due to lack of Indigenous representation she found in magazines and fashion shows, she did not think it was feasible as a career. In 2020, she landed a job with Calvin Klein for their One Future #CK1 youth campaign. She then signed with IMG Models. She has since featured on the covers of Vogue Mexico, Vogue Japan, V Magazine, Elle, and Porter. Quannah acknowledges the inherent tension between her activism and the fashion industry's carbon footprint, but she hopes to use her influence to nudge companies in the right direction. Quote, "It's possible to be part of these industries and create changes and inspire change. I always tell people you have to be at the table when they're making these decisions. These days, I get so many messages from young Indigenous women who are excited to see my recent fashion shoots in magazines. I can't even explain the type of feeling I get. Because it's such a powerful thing for our people to finally feel seen and heard after such a long time without being represented in fashion." And I did really appreciate that quote of like, you have to be at the table in order to help influence these decisions, because that's something that I often struggle with, and I feel like a lot of people struggle with, is they just kind of want to take their ball and go home. Like, if no one's gonna appreciate what I'm gonna say, or if it just seems so futile, like the fashion industry against one activist. But there is something to be said at working within the flawed system in order to create outside change. I still don't know what the right answer is. If it's attacking the system from the outside, destroying it and replacing it, or if it's working within the system and trying to create little changes in this deeply flawed and unfair system. I truly don't know which one is correct. And I know a lot of people strongly believe to take your ball and go home, and a lot of people strongly believe that you have to compromise your values and work in an unethical or unjust system in order to try to make it more ethical and just. And I think it's really important that there's activists like Quannah ChasingHorse in the fashion industry giving a voice to Indigenous communities who are disproportionately affected by climate change. So the last little bit I want to talk about with Quannah ChasingHorse is her Met Gala look. Her Met Gala look in May of 2022 for the Gilded Glamour themed Met Gala made a huge splash in this gold lame gown and these Indigenous accessories, and I just wanted to touch on that before I ended this video. ChasingHorse makes a point of celebrating Indigenous fashion and promoting sustainable Indigenous brands. Her red carpet look at the Gilded Age themed Met Gala in May 2022 went viral on social media. The Navajo-inspired outfit was put together by Peter Dundas, Tabitha Simmons, Gucci Westman, and the 2006 Miss Navajo Nation Jocelyn Billy Upshaw, who is a family friend. Refinery29 called her the breakout star of the event. That same week, she walked her first runway at New York Fashion Week. Quote, "I want my community to be heard and seen in the right way. Not a stereotype, not a fake version of what the industry wants natives to look like or be like or sound like. It's extremely important to represent and bring authentic and true American culture to this year's theme, as Native American culture has been appropriated and misrepresented in fashion so many times," ChasingHorse says. "Reclaiming our culture is the key. We need to show the world that we're still here and that the land everyone occupies is stolen native land. She, Simmons, and Dundas did so by paying homage to her indigenous roots through jewelry, piling on turquoise and silver pieces that reflected her ties to the Navajo tribe. Quote, "It was amazing to be able to be there and represent indigenous people," Chasing Horse says. "Before I got to the Met, I was listening to Native music and artists to help me feel more empowered, and I was extremely excited to show the world the beauty of Native indigeneity. Quote, "I'm constantly breaking those barriers and stereotypes that were meant to harm my people and make us feel less human. It was refreshing to feel empowered in a space where I wouldn't have been welcomed if it was a decade ago. I really wanted to be able to get some visibility and show the world we are still here." Which, again, is why I wanted to do a style spotlight on Quannah ChasingHorse. I think it's so important to listen to Indigenous voices. It's something that I make a point to do often. I love reading books by Indigenous people, Braiding Sweetgrass, Gathering Moss, and An Indigenous People's History to the United States. I read An Indigenous People's History to the United States this past year, and it was one of the most eye-opening, heartbreaking, and educational books I've ever read. I mean, I knew this country was absolutely disgusting and vile and genocidal. I had no idea how bad it was. And I consider myself to be well educated and woke and trying to educate myself. And like, it's burn this whole fucking country to the ground. That's what I have to say. So I highly recommend going out of your way to listen to Indigenous voices and to read books by Indigenous people and to follow Indigenous people. I strongly believe that the only way to take care of America's environment, the United States environment, is to give it back and to learn from the people who are truly stewards of the land. Colonizers, the people who destroyed the land, are never going to be the ones to fix it. They say, oh, let's plant a whole monoculture of corn that destroys the land, so then we need fertilizer, then we need extra water. Indigenous people are like, if you plant corn, beans, and squash in the same area, it self-fertilizes, self-waters, and you can use way less land. And colonizers are like, how about we kill all of you if you mention that again? So yeah, I truly believe that the only way we are going to save the environment, specifically in the United States, is by listening and giving the land over to Indigenous people, people who have centuries of tradition knowing how to take care of specifically the land in the United States. Because clearly colonizers have had a 300-year run. All that we've done is absolutely decimate our beautiful nation's land. And so I think it's time to give land back and to listen to Indigenous voices, starting with Quannah ChasingHorse. So I'm so honored to have done this style spotlight on her. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, definitely give this video a thumbs up and let me know who else you'd like me to cover in style spotlights and what other videos you'd like to see from me. My boyfriend and I are actually looking at buying a house. We're gonna tour a house today. Let me know if you guys would be interested in like seeing that. I don't have my Patreon active anymore because I wanted to focus more on giving you guys quality content. So I don't know if you guys would want to see like house hunting vlogs or like moving vlogs, but let me know. And just let me know what other things you want to see, especially with like winter and New Year's fashion and Christmas fashion, all of that. Let me know what December type videos you want to do. I know you guys love those month girl videos. I only have 3 months left, December, September, and I think July. So I'm trying to space them all out. So I won't be doing December this year. I will start next year with July, September, December, and finally complete my month girl series. But I have the 9 other months already done and they're in a playlist. So if you like that series, definitely check that out and I will complete the month series in 2025. And with that, make sure to subscribe to my channel because I post videos every Thursday. Follow me on TikTok and Instagram because I post content there as well. And with that, have a happy, happy day. Bye.